LeGrand Alive. This is Coffee with Will, brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress, anythingtodigital.com, Grand Run Hospital, Northwest Furniture and Mattress, and Seabright Dentistry, and EONI. Forgot about that one. And today I'm here with Gary Lillard, who is a longtime resident of LeGrand, City Council member, and also, as I just found out here today before the conversation, a ex-manager of the Youth Correctional Facility at Hillgard Junction. He's here today to chat with us a little bit about his experiences and why he's in LeGrand. So thank you so much for joining me, Gary.
How do you do? Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and joining me and having coffee with me. And so we were kind of chatting a little bit before the cameras got on about you being the ex-manager of the correctional facility at Hillgard Junction, which is interesting to me because correctional facilities are kind of clandestine. You know, not many people get to go in and actually see what goes on inside of inside of correctional facilities. So tell me, in the time that you were at the correctional facility as the manager, what were some of the most interesting things that you learned about human nature, about just, people, about young people, those kinds of things?
Well, I think there was a lot to learn. Obviously, you learn something about the negative side of human behavior,
Sure.
and the manipulation and all those kinds of things that can go on. For me, the most important thing was to learn how human most of those people are, though. I really, as I worked through my correctional career, really found my attitudes softening somewhat from a hard line, law enforcement type person to having a little more understanding of what has led some of these young people to be where they're at. In a few cases, it's been very much their own decision. They were just, I guess, in a sense, bad people and did what they did. But usually there's more to it than that. There's family, there's generational history, there's things that have happened to them that are difficult to overcome. I think for me personally, that was probably the most valuable thing I learned was to recognize and understand the humanity that everybody has, including these people that are generally looked down upon by society.
That's interesting. So you would say that living in or working in the correctional facility developed some compassion for you?
I think so.
And maybe some love and some understanding.
Some understanding, yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting because I just recently heard a TED Talk with a lady who was a psychologist in a prison, and I think that that's one of the people, and she had the same experience that you did. She was a psychologist, and she was the head of what's called the Red Shirts program, which is an organization in the prison that took the prisoners and actually had them work with other prisoners who had dementia and other physical ailments, and they actually were paid to help the other prisoners. And she said that many of the people who were diehard killers, murderers, rapists, actually found a lot of fulfillment out of being in that program. So prisoners are not people that we see as human beings very often, but it sounds like being close with them, you get to see their humanity a little bit more.
You do. I mean, you can't afford to be naive because certainly some of the more difficult ones, the more hard-line ones, they can be amazingly human. You can sit down and have a chat with them just like we're doing, but you don't want to trust too far. You probably wouldn't want to run across them in proverbial dark alley someplace,
You wouldn't want to have coffee with them behind a dilapidated old building.
Exactly. So you have to have some understanding of that. You can't be naive, but at the same time, you can still understand there is a level of humanity there that sometimes you can engage to make things a little better.
Interesting. So how do you find that balance when you are the manager between having a soft hand and maybe a little bit more of a hard hand?
I kind of let the other parties determine what's going to be necessary. I always tried not to run power struggles on them or being that kind of a guard, if you will. But certainly there were some that required a firmer hand at times, either because of just how they were in general or because they did something specific they shouldn't have done. And you have to respond to that appropriately and professionally. But just because you understand their humanity and have learned a little compassion doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable
For sure.
when it's necessary to do that.
Well, sometimes learning about people's humanity is about learning some of the darker sides of
Exactly.
humanity.
Exactly.
And those are not parts of the human experience you can ignore.
Exactly.
So very interesting. So now you are a city council member, and maybe you can speak to, has any of the experiences, the lessons that you learned as a manager at the facility translated into being a city council member? How did those two things connect in your brain? Or do they connect? Were you just ready to be done with managing and, managing a prison and decided you wanted to go in a different direction?
Well, of course, I've been involved with the city council since before I went to work out there. That's been a pretty long-term avocation as well. I probably integrated some parts of my experience there as well as other places. My background is in mental health. That's where my master's degree is, and that's what I spent most of my life doing. In fact, I started out at the facility there as their mental health professional. So certainly aspects of that profession have been helpful in terms of dealing with city council issues or a variety of other things.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, you try to integrate everything you learn in life, hopefully, and
put it all together.
Make it work for you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So this will probably be the last question, and then we'll probably be done for the day. We're kind of running out of time. But if you had to say that there was one, how do I want to phrase this? If there was one thing that people that are watching this Coffee with Will could take away from the experiences of Gary Lillard as both a manager of the correctional facility as well as a city council member, what can people take away from that? And you can think about that if you want to.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of synthesizing those two
Right,
things. You want your
right.
life to kind of come together.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps the need, the necessity to be open to learning new things and realizing that things may not be quite what they seem to be. I mean, a lot of people, whether it's our local city council or politics at any level, I think make presumptions. They have stereotypes about what's happening or why it's happening. Why isn't this done or why was that done? Well, there's a lot of background to that, just as there was a lot of background and things that I learned in my work at the facility. You have to keep an open mind and really learn what's going on instead of just assuming things.
So being open to seeing why people do the things they do rather than just reducing them to a preconceived notation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is a great takeaway from today's episode. So thank you so much for joining me
Thank
and
you.
drinking coffee with me and telling me
Yes.
about your experiences. And thank you, LaGrande Alive, for tuning in. This is Coffee with Will. It's been brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Grand Ron Hospital, anythingdigital.com, EONI, and Seabright Dentistry. Please like and share the video and tune into LaGrandeAlive.tv for more local content. I'm Will Bowen.